Hey, everybody.
Welcome to another Tuesday
Wow.
podcast. We are coming live from Miami, Florida. So
We have a few things going on today. Obviously, you can see we're not in the same place that we typically are. We are in Miami. There's a big hurricane coming right for Bradenton and Tampa area,
which is where we typically reside. And so we are still going live as planned. This is part of our weekly schedule. We always come live. So if you hear extra noises, we are actually evacuated over here in Miami with our 2 kids. And we actually brought our executive assistant and her friend so that everybody would stay safe. So definitely thinking about the Tampa Bay area, our home for the last few years. It's definitely a super special place for us. So it does not go unnoticed, all of what's happening over there. However, we wanted to chat about real estate. And today's topic is real estate investing for beginners, because guys, we were beginners just like you. If you're new to real estate or you're wanting to get in on it, we're really reflecting the last few days about how we're able to pick up and come over to Miami and, truly live by life by design, right? So life by design and life on our own terms means that we are our own bosses. We have our teams, and it's truly a duty that we don't take lightly of making sure everybody's taken care of. Hence why we brought Felipa, our executive assistant. And if it weren't for real estate, A, we would probably not be living in Florida, but then B, we wouldn't have the opportunities that we do have to be able to pick up and work from anywhere. The option to work from home or a kitchen here in Miami, Florida, it really means a lot to us. And if we could truly just share with you, show you the path, and let you know like anything is possible. I was an English teacher. So that means that I was teaching 7th graders, they were my favorite, up through 12th graders, how to read, write, talk about literature, all of the really important things of dissecting books and words and meanings. None of that helps me with real estate. As much as I love it, I had to learn all these new skills. And Joe used to give me a really hard time because I said that I am not good with numbers. And I had to stop telling myself that, because numbers weren't my thing and therefore they weren't. And so what I did was I shifted my mindset and I realized, okay, well, maybe math wasn't always my forte, but what is? Helping people. And so when it comes to real estate investing, it's a fancy word for helping other people. There's just different facets of it.
Yeah. And so today we're going to dive into, like, when you're just starting off, what are some of the things that you need to do to get started? And the reason why I fell in love with real estate investing was because I saw so many people, like I grew up poor, and I saw so many people who, the millionaire next door, not the one with the fanciest car, although some of them were in it too, but it was the millionaire next door, the people who just had a job, right? A family, didn't live in a mansion, but they were millionaires, like secret millionaires. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, like, how are you doing it? And it usually started off by having a job, having some source of income, which I think was really important. But then what they did with the income was even more important. And they reinvested it back into education. They reinvested it back into their own business. And when I had wasn't a 9-to-5 job, because I worked from like 8 till 9 at night. But when I had my job at the dealership, I used to, for my own theory and for everybody else, I used to say, start your side hustle now until you can't afford to go to work anymore.
Wow. Yeah.
And so when I'm doing this, so many folks are like, well, why are you doing this? You have a job, you have an income. Like, why would you want to have a rental house? Why would you want to have 2 rental houses? Why would you want to have 10? And, so on and so forth. But for me, it was about the bigger picture. It was about being the millionaire next door, where I don't have to have a Lambo, although they're nice, but you don't have to have that. You just need to start growing one property at a time, bringing you some extra cash flow, and it adds up. And real estate is wonderful because there's so many ways that you can make money with it. The property goes up in value. You get monthly cash flow. You get to write off depreciation off your taxes. So you're getting a discount on your taxes for having these rentals. So with that being the case, there were so many reasons why I fell in love with real estate. I'm like, yes, this is what I want to do. And then it could get to a point where maybe one day I didn't have to have my job anymore. It was a goal. It was a dream. It was what I was really working for. So today we're going to go over how you could get your first deal and then ultimately, build a portfolio. And a portfolio could be just one property. It could be 2, 3, 4, 10, or way, way more. There's no cap.
And let's kind of like paint that picture, because I think it came up in our small group coaching today on a call that we were doing, is that what could one property do? So let's just not talk about scaling, not talking about growing a crazy portfolio, because sometimes that's really intimidating to people. So, your first buy and hold, you had one that we did the, traditional way, I guess, back when the market crashed.
Yeah.
But the point being is, especially with creative, you don't need to come out of pocket with $40,000. You can definitely get into it with little to no money down to the sellers, just closing costs. But once you take over real estate, you could then have the ability to turn around and sell it if truly need be. So you could be sitting on hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Well, and they say, when's the best time to plant a tree? And that was 20 years ago. So when's the second best time to plant a tree? And that's today. That's about taking that action today. So, obviously we'd have all loved to buy properties in 08 and way beyond and, have them rock bottom discounts. And that's what we bought. And now they're worth a ton more, which is great. But so then how do I get started today? It's not 2008 anymore. Times have changed. Technology's gotten way better. But so what can we do now? So if I was to give advice of somebody who's just starting up now, I think of rule number 1, which is if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. So that means you're going to have to find some properties that are going to actually give you some money and make some money on the deal, right? And so what does that look like? You have to attract leads. You have to find people who want to sell properties at a given discount. If you're going to do a cash offer or even creative finance where it's a pretty house, it doesn't need work, and the seller's opening to terms, whether that's seller financing or you take over their existing mortgage with a wrap or subject to, any of those things that you can do can build wealth. And the reason why I fell in love with creative finance is because you could achieve much more with way less. And so when I see so many friends and so many people say, Joe, I'm running out of money. I keep putting 20% down and then I go to the bank and take out a loan. And then I'm only cash flowing very, very little for the next 25 or 30 years. And that's a challenge, right?
Yeah. And that's where, when we learned that strategy of buying with a few $1,000s down to pay for closing costs and then turning around and looking for a rent to own tenant buyer, we immediately were collecting $10,000, $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 down for a non-refundable option. So that was putting money right back into our bank account so we could go do that all over again, buy another property. And then, like Joe said, the benefit truly lies, I think, too, is in that true cash flow where we're not traditional landlords. We don't have to take care of maintenance, repairs, all of those things. Our tenants are acting as if they are the homeowners, because that's the end goal, that they're going to become homeowners with our program. And so the cash flow is truly cash flow. And then, that really helps your business continue growing if you so choose.
Yeah. So our average cash flow per door is over 500 and some change per door. So times 12 months out of the year, if that was you, what would another, $6,000 at the end of the year do for you? What happens if you had 2 properties? You had 12,000 extra money on top of your job at the end of the year. What happens if you had 10 properties? Right? That could really add up. So this is the whole point. $60,000 a year on 10 properties could replace maybe your day job. Maybe then you're financially independent, which means you could live off of your rental properties and then continue to grow, right? So that's the big picture. It all, and this is one thing I heard you say is, how do you eat an elephant? It's one bite at a time. It is a weird thing, but it gives you the idea. It's a big, big thing. Yeah. And how do I do all of this to get there? So it starts one property at a time, one door at a time. So seller financing, why it's my favorite. I could buy a lot of these deals, and we do buy many of these deals with very little to no money down. Now, if you hear no money down, that doesn't mean I don't need any money to buy the deal. I still have to cover some closing costs. I still have to put an insurance policy on the property. I'm going to have to pay for, maybe I have to paint, maybe I don't. Some we don't have to. But I might have to sock away a payment or 2 or even 3 before I can find my right renter. So when you add all of that up, no money down means I don't have to come up with 20% down. Even with seller financing, no money down. But the closing costs will get you, the insurance policy. So how do I get that money right back if I had to borrow it, or if I had it in my savings or checking, or I had to take a loan out for it, whatever that was. And that's why we love rent to own, is because our renters, once they move in, we get a big check. And then therefore we could recycle the same money over and over again.
And in the process, we help renters become homeowners. And once you've done that once, I mean, the feeling was just incredible. So every time someone comes through and they're like, hey, we're getting ready, it's really high fives all around. So definitely something where if that's intriguing to you, you know, we've got so many videos on rent to own. It's something that it changed my mind about real estate. Again, like I was an English teacher, and to me, real estate, it sounded complicated. It sounded like, oh, that's for other people. It's for people on Wall Street, like the people with like all the money in the world. No, it's for the everyday mom and pop. So a lot of times people start with Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It's a great book to read. And I think, you know, obviously, yes, you need to, if you don't make dollars, it don't make sense, but like you have to get your head on right too. So if you're not already like on board with making a lot of money and understanding like the energy of money and how it works, and when money is in the right hands with the right people, like really amazing things can happen, then you need to start there too. Like there's so many podcasts, there's books to read, Think and Grow Rich.
Well, I think too, and I'm going to get back to like, yeah, mindset. It's the most important thing of all. And sometimes we focus on the wrong things, right? Or the things that aren't as important. The first thing you got to do, and it's like being in a plane, they talk about if there's an event and the oxygen masks come down, put yours on before you could put on your neighbors or help anybody else. So you got to take care of yourself first, and that is your mindset, which is super important. But you don't need any fancy CRMs. You don't need a virtual assistant.
You don't even need business cards.
You don't need business cards. You don't need a logo. You don't need a website. You don't need to have the permission of your family or your friends or your coworkers tell you that it's okay. You don't need any of that.
What do you need?
You need to have your mind straight. You need to get around the right people. You need to start creating your own village. I mean, we were on our support call earlier with our clients, and one, his name is Cisco. He's been on our podcast multiple times, repeat offender because he's just crushing it. But he's doing amazing. And the neat thing when you listen to Cisco's story, he talked about how he just found 2 deals within like the last week, and how on those 2 deals made up a large portion of what he would have made at his old job. And when you listen to Cisco's story, it's such an amazing thing because he's just someone who is taking massive action.
Even when he doesn't want to.
Well, and that was the point he was talking about today. He was like, you know, I still do my marketing. I'm still generating leads. And he's like, I didn't even really want to, but I still knew it was the thing to do. And the day that he didn't want to, but did, was the day he got a lead that came in that turned into a deal that's paying him a lot of money. Helped out a seller because she was in a jam. And he just sent over somebody to go take pictures. And they were like, listen, we don't want to get in a bidding war. Like, how much do you want for this house? And he made a really nice assignment fee on it. He says, now this is a disclaimer. This doesn't always happen this way. So if you're listening, you're like, oh, I want to do 2 hours. He had into it. 2 hours.
And this is the free marketing. This is not running sponsored ads. This is not mailers, TV commercials, radio ads, or cold calling. It's taking moments with your phone and posting in Facebook groups and responding to people and asking questions. And the way he said it too, again, it's like, you know, I got out of my way months ago and I just started asking the questions. I stopped trying to like figure out what they wanted and I just asked them. You just ask the questions. And I think that like, it's so important to go back to basics, especially as a new person investing. And then even if you've been in it for a while, it's really important to not stop, you know, don't stop doing what works.
Yeah. And he was like, I don't make offers. He's like, I just ask questions and the seller makes me the offer and I see if I can make those numbers work. And I was like, oh my gosh, it's working. You're learning, you're doing deals. 1 year ago, he hasn't ever talked to a seller. Now he's talking to them. And it was a challenge, right? It's a challenge, but here was the thing. He kept coming. He kept going even when he didn't feel like it. He kept going even when his mind was giving him a hard time, and he then, you know, sought after the resources to give him that. And so that's the case, guys. I know when you see anybody who's got a lot of properties It's easy to sit back and be like, oh, well, that's must be nice.
Mhm.
You don't know the work they put in to get there.
Right. And it can be really overwhelming and defeating if you haven't gotten your yes yet. But that means that the more no's that you are getting, that you're just that much closer. And so again, it just rings true. It sounds so simple, but just don't quit. And that's really true for anything in life, but especially real estate investing. And I think too is like if you like put yourself in Cisco's shoes, for example, and I know because we've personally been there too. If he hadn't posted that silly little ad, this seller, who knows what would happen? Like maybe she wouldn't be able to sell her house. Maybe she would, I don't know, like anything at all could have happened. But the point being is
well, somebody else could have either
Distracted.
got the deal. Sorry,
Because you're trying to do another camera. I'm like, no, like 2 cameras is too much.
but the point of it is, he's helping out a seller, he's helping out a buyer, he's helping out his own family, he's helping out the attorney and title company and all of the things around it. So you look at how many people get impacted by just one deal, and it's really impressive. So
that's my point. Go over your ego and know that like you are one post away from changing someone else's lives. If we cannot focus on ourselves and be so concerned about, what if, and just do it. Like we can't live in the what ifs. We have to like focus on the now. What can you do today to move your business forward? If it's something that you keep tuning into the podcast and you haven't done a deal yet, like why? What haven't you done? Have you not posted the ad? Have you not run the script? Have you not asked the right questions? So really just ask yourself the honest things. That it's nothing complicated and it's nothing hard that we do here, but it does take work and it does take time.
And here's something that you might need to hear that I know I needed to hear. And this rings true very deep to me. If we can do it, you can do it. Okay. And sometimes you just need that encouragement, but it's true. We're just regular people who have just accomplished some things because we never quit doing it. And there's many days where you feel like, what is this? What's going on? There's many days where you just feel like, oh my gosh. But then on the other side, there's many wonderful things that happen too. So you just got to really stay committed to the craft and continue to work better and more at yourself. And I think that's been the key.
Absolutely. And then focus on the time that you do have. If it's 5 minutes, then go post your blue ad, as we call it, in your Facebook group, which you can go download on our website for free, creativefinanceplaybook.com.
Where?
Creativefinanceplaybook.com. It's just a simple, does anyone have a house for sale that's not market ready?
Yep.
I'm looking to buy one in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And you post that and people will respond to it, and you will get also people messaging you. You could put that on your personal page. We had another client last week. She posted on her personal page that she's looking to buy, and people were coming out of the woodwork that I didn't realize. I did not know this many people might have a property just by posting on social media. So you don't have to be a big wig influencer with 1 million followers to make a huge difference in someone else's life and your own and your bank account.
So the 3 metrics that we track in the very beginning, so when somebody's just starting out, is number 1, how many leads are you getting in a week? Right? If you're just looking on the MLS and plan on going to the bank and paying these rates and these prices, it is almost impossible to find a deal, guys. It is like the most impossible thing right now. It's so challenging. So the way to find the deals is to go off market, direct to seller, finding these sellers. And how do we find these people? Well, they're going to find us by our post. And I think that's the key. So the big metrics we always track are number 1, how many leads are you getting a week? And if you don't have any incoming leads coming in, you don't have a business. So you just got to focus on getting leads. And if you got 1 lead that week, great job, pump that up to 25. Okay, there'll be 25 people who will reach out to you on Facebook if you post that post religiously in 5, 6, 7, 8 Facebook groups per day. Then number 2, you're going to get our script for free, guys. Go to our website, creativefinanceplaybook.com. Go get it. Use it, okay? The second metric we track is when somebody reaches out to you, how many people answer all the questions? And what we have is called a fall off rate. That means if I ask the 10 questions to 10 different sellers, how many answer all 10 of them? And you really want to make sure you're achieving that 70, 80%. Sometimes you'll talk to somebody and they just kind of vanish or disappear. So get their phone number, be able to get a conversation going with them. And then the third is how many offers are you making a week? Because if you're not getting leads and you're not talking to sellers, you're not making offers.
And by making offers, what do you mean? Because we don't make offers.
The seller makes us the offer by asking the questions, right? But you got to get those offers out there. And that's the key. So, but if you're not talking to sellers, you're not getting offers, and therefore you're not going to buy deals. And that's the metric that we track. So if somebody says, Joe, I've got 25 leads in a week, and I'm on, out of the 25 that I've got, 75%, 3 out of 4 answer all the questions. And I'm on the phone with most of them, and we're making some offers, going back and forth with the seller. Sometimes it's a counter offer on their offer, right? That's going to result in you getting deals eventually. And it might not happen the first day. It might not happen the first week. Good. It's not supposed to. If it does, high five to you, because it can. You never know. It's like a scratch off card. Every seller who reaches out to you, it's like a scratch off card. And a lot of scratch off cards are duds, as we all know this, but it just takes one
to win big
bell ringer to change your life. And we've had so many of those happen on multi-million-dollar properties, on the cheapy little property in the rough part. It happens in all different shapes and sizes. So the name of it, guys, is just continue to get your scratch off cards, because they're free the way we're talking about it. So that's going to be our key metrics, right? Get leads. You should be getting 25 a week. You should be getting 75% of those people should answer all your questions. Get on the phone, especially with the really good ones, and then get those offers. And that's going to be the key to you getting, it's either your first deal or your next deal by doing that. And sometimes these could be seller finance or creative finance deals. Sometimes they're cash offers. In our script, it even says, if we were to pay out cash and close when you want, what's the least you take? And if you see a big discount, maybe that turns into a wholesale deal. And 24 years ago, that was the very first deal I did. And I got almost $13,000 from that deal, which was life-changing to me. That was a lot of money back then. It still is today, but it was even bigger back then. So these are going to be your keys. You got to get started, and that's how you're going to finish. So I would say if we're looking to do your first deal, guys, that's what you need to do.
Yeah. And maybe even if you're truly new and you don't know where to even invest, then spend a little bit of time looking at the markets. I know that there's a lot of noise, we'll call it, out there of where you should invest and where you shouldn't. And so I know for us, we say, look in your own backyard first. That's what worked for us. We were able to locally up in the area of Rochester, New York, we were able to just look around the areas with good school districts. We knew that we wanted homes in like suburban areas that were, the price range was, doable for most people, where you'd be able to afford the monthly rent. And then once we felt more comfortable, like as, confident investors, then we started adding just more numbers, and, bigger, higher end properties really made a difference too. So start in your backyard is my biggest takeaway there. And then if that's not the case, because some markets are tricky, like we know Florida, obviously right now is its own little.
It's a challenge, but yeah. I think, the key to it is like whatever my almost recession-proof property idea is, whatever the averages in that area, average median house sale. So if you live in an area and the average house is selling for, and you can find all the statistics out there, let's just say it's $300,000, which is kind of higher, but say that's the case. Well, then for me, my almost what I call not completely recession-proof, but the properties that are slightly under that price range, that are a really nice house in a great school district. If you could find the houses that are under the median house price range in your area that are in a great school district, there's always going to be people looking for those houses.
So you're going to go to Facebook and look in those areas and those Facebook groups is really the point we're making, is that if you do live in Florida or California, then maybe you check out Pennsylvania. Maybe you do check out New York State. Maybe you do check out Ohio or some of the other more affordable housing that,
you can still buy houses, guys. I know it's going to blow some of your mind, but we're still finding people who want to sell a house for like $30,000, $40,000. Now, it's not downtown Manhattan, obviously, but some of these properties are very inexpensive to get into.
Yeah.
And let me tell you, $500 a month on $1 million property, or $500 a month in cash flow on an $80,000 property, the 500 still spends the same. Obviously, one's got more value to it, but that doesn't mean it's always going to be a better deal. So my case for me is we always want to buy real estate based on a few things: appreciation, cash flow, depreciation. Obviously, I love the area, jobs moving to the area. That's a big thing too. So there's many of these places out there. Don't get stuck. Generate leads. Start in your own backyard because you know it the best usually. Start connecting with other investors.
And I was going to say that too, is like community is huge. So having the right group of people, because you will need a team. You can't do it by yourself, even though it was just you and then I. We did have our attorneys, our contractors, our CPA, people that we knew in the area that would be able to help us out with things. So it was really important for us to then, take that next step and get a mentor and really help get that true guidance, because while buying properties without banks and without credit isn't hard, there are certainly things that we wanted to make sure that we set up the seller for success, ourselves, and then of course our end buyer, our rent to own buyer, because there are so many moving parts that it's really hard to keep track of it if you're just trying to figure it all out by yourself. And like, oh, I saw one YouTube video said that, and then I read this somewhere on Instagram. Like, no, like that's going to take you so much more time. So find yourself a trusted community, a mentor, or coach that you can really feel at home with and ask the questions. I think that's really important too.
Yeah. And it's about asking the right questions and have the seller make us the offer, which is completely key. And yes, there's going to be some sellers out there who want a lot of money down. However, we tell them we typically buy with no money down. So if they do give us an offer and the offer they give us is, yes, I'll do terms, but I want X amount down. Well, now is the time to make your counter offer and say, I can't do that, but here's what I can do. Right. And there's many times where either us or Lexi on our team, she'll come to me and say, hey, Joe, this person wants to sell their home. They want 400,000 for it. They want 50 grand down and they'll do terms. And I say, now is the time to put in our counter offer and say, I can't do 50 grand down, but I can do it with 5 grand down and I'll cover all the closing costs and fees. And it'll be the easiest closing you'll have. There's no bank appraisals needed. It's just now picking out the closing date. So sometimes it's also about speed and convenience too. It's not always about the dollars. So you got to make your counter offer, which is very important because most people, they want a big lump sum. I don't blame them, but there's many people who don't need that. And there's even some who don't want it either because of certain other reasons.
And I think too, because I know you see it, but there are people that do promise the seller all this money up front and these crazy situations of I'll pay you this much over, I'm going to take over the mortgage and give you this. And then the deals just float around on Facebook because they're not really deals. And so, at the end of the day, you have to really know how to structure them, the right questions to ask, how to analyze the area, and just know that yeah, sellers are going to probably want a lot down, but that doesn't make sense most times for an investor who just.
Yeah, the numbers got to make sense.
Yeah.
Like we started off, guys, if it don't make dollars, it don't make sense. I saw a deal floating this morning. Somebody had it posted on Facebook that you can do this seller finance deal, but they wanted 50 grand down. The property rents for 2,300. The monthly payment is 2,000. And so I'm like, okay, I have to come up with $50,000 down to make $300 a month, but let me scratch that because it's not. It's $50,000 down plus closing costs, plus my insurance policy, plus now I have to put utilities.
Yeah.
Now I have to make a payment or two. So it could add up. 50,000 could be 60, 75 to make $200 to $300 a month. That ain't worth it. So the best deal is to find your own deals, get leads, get abundance of leads so you can cherry pick the very best deals because every seller who says yes doesn't mean it's a great deal for you, the buyer. We have to be mindful of that. That's why there's counter offers and things like that. And we have to be really mindful of that. So if a seller says, yes, I will do this, and you're excited, I don't blame you. Be excited, but use your brain, analyze the deal, and go back to rule number 1 and make sure it's a good deal.
Absolutely.
Bang, guys.
Nice. We have a couple questions. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for asking. We're okay. We're good. And we'll let you know about the house. At this point, we're just glad we got out safely. Even our dog, she's doing well. So.
Yep.
Thank you, Patricia. Really appreciate all the well wishes from all of you. And Tony and Angie, you guys ask good questions. Our 3 best takeaways, other than John Maxwell. Love how you threw that one in there because I would definitely said him from the family mastermind. And what will you do differently as a result? So yeah, Joe and I were at the family mastermind in Tampa just a few weeks ago, where the best of the best of real estate, coaching, education, all of the things come together. And it's like mind blowing the conversations that you have. And I would say one big takeaway for me was breaking bread with people in a small group. Meaning we went and had a couple of smaller dinners. I love meeting with everybody and quick conversations outside. of the conference itself, but actually sitting down and having a meal and having just like everyday conversations with some pretty amazing people. It's just nice to be on that level, I thought.
Yeah, and you realize that when you see somebody on Instagram or you see somebody at their YouTube or TV or whatever, because they're all in there, and there's some like wow people in there. You have dinner, you have lunch, you're hanging out with them. You realize they're just normal people. They're just normal people. They still, I mean, dress, look, act. I mean, they might act a little bit different, but they're regular people. And that was my like aha moment. But I already kind of,
that was my aha moment. You pick your own.
Well, I think mine was about, and we've heard this before, so I'm not going to invent it, but it's okay to be not the smartest person in the room. And you actually don't want to be. So surround yourself with people who are a little bit, and then way, way smarter, who achieved way more things, who could help. They've blazed the trail. And now they could give you the tips and the strategies to help you get there a lot faster. So for me, it's about being around the right people. And here's the key to this. I'm going to put a little asterisk. So yes, it's important to be around the right people, but it's hard sometimes to find them and how to. So if you've got to pay money to be around the right people, it's the best investment you're going to have. So for us, we pay money to be a part of the mastermind. It's not free, but for us to be close in proximity and the connections and the speed of those connections are priceless. So if you're going to go to an event, you really want to learn how to work the room and get around and meet everybody and shake hands and kiss babies. There's no babies there. There is a couple of young kids, but you know what I mean? You got to go around there and you got to be very.
You can't just sit as like a wallflower,
No.
You know, like, again, I'm a little bit of an introvert, but I make sure I step out of my comfort zone. I put on my, okay, I'm going to go do this hat, and you just go out there and you network and you ask the questions and you give. What can I help you with? And that's really how I think you get further ahead.
Yeah. And the neat thing I loved the competition in there, because there was a lot of competition, but the competition they had in that group was about who can give the most, not take the most. Everybody was giving the knowledge, sharing the secret sauce, sharing that recipe. They were sharing the reason why they're successful, right? So I love being around a bunch of people who are way, way smarter, accomplished way, way, way more, and who is an ultimate, like just giving you, here it is. So I think those were some really big lessons.
I think the third, real quick to end on that one, is that we finally smartened up and we brought one of our team members. Because yes, we will try to divide and conquer and we'll like absorb what we can, but we brought Abby on our team, and just to really empower someone and not have to sit there and try to text or message and relay what we were learning. Like, she was there, she was absorbing, and then she came back and kind of almost lit an extra fire. Like, we're already excited, but I feel like she lit an extra fire in us.
So
too.
That was John Maxwell. I'm going to give him a shout out because he's amazing. He wrote 90 something books. He's got 16 more coming, sold 38 million copies all around the world. Is an amazing person. But the one thing that he said that it was like amazing was bring your people with you. He's like, because if you go to something like this and then you got to go back and tell them how great it was, and you lose some of it, but bringing them with you was huge. So then we brought Abby with us, and spot on. She learned a lot. She was inspired, and it's great to see her grow with us. So I love it. Love it. Love it. Love it.
Very good question there. And then Jade, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but yeah, most sellers are going to want as much possible. So it's all in the details and asking them, little things that can kind of just move that needle closer to no money down, so that it really works out for all parties.
And the one thing to add to that, Jade, is there's many times where a seller might start there and you might not make the deal today, and that's okay. Follow up is key, and relationship with that person is key. So the more they get to like you and know you and trust you, the more apt you're to do business. So there's many times where they've started off with a very high number, and we didn't make the deal that day. But down the road, we made the deal because circumstances have changed, time have changed, their motivation has changed. And I've had people move from wanting 6 figures down to taking 10 grand down. Right? 100 grand, $100,000 down to $10,000, made the deals. So if you don't make it on the first talk, that's okay. Don't freak out. Put them in a follow-up system. Follow up with your sellers, guys. Get off the hamster wheel of just getting new leads all the time. If you're not following up, you're never going to get off the wheel. So follow up with the sellers that you've already talked to a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago, because maybe now is the time where that 20% down is now $5 grand down.
It's true.
So bam.
Yeah. And absolutely, a lot of times sellers are selling you a problem and it's your job to figure it out. And that's exactly what we get paid for. We're constantly figuring out how to solve problems.
That is spot on.
All sorts of problems. All right. And Jade's final question here. She analyzed a deal, her first deal, but she would like someone to review it and give her some advice. Is that a service that we offer?
I mean, Jade, if it's a deal that you're thinking of taking down, just text me, 585-207-2240, my cell phone.
Oh,
Bam, look at you.
there you go.
Yeah, that's my cell phone. Just shoot me a text with the details on there and I could give you a quick answer. I would see what you think of it. And maybe you can put that deal together. Other than that, guys, go to creativefinanceplaybook.com. Scrolling across the bottom if you're watching on YouTube or watching live, and go get our free leads. The lead magnet will get you so many leads. It's crazy. And then go get our script of these are the 10 questions that we ask every seller. And by these 10 questions, the seller makes you the offer. And so you got to get them, guys. Go get that, go use it, put it to work. And if you're going to use it, use it right. Okay. That's the key.
Sorry, guys. I'll sleep deprived. But yeah, we do have a wonderful script. And by script, don't get scared by that word. It's just 10 questions. But when we first got started, it was a little bit of a roadmap of trying to figure out what were the questions and how do you ask and what if, right? Is there mortgages or not? This makes it so easy peasy that you don't have to think. You just copy it, you paste it in your DMs or a text message, you wait for a response, and then you ask the next question.
Easy, easy, easy.
Yeah. So if you're not following us on Facebook, make sure you do, or Instagram, Jenn Delle Fave, Joseph Delle Fave. We're sharing our, hurricane evacuation adventures. We're trying to stay positive in all the things. And guys, we still are showing up doing it. Even if, life is happening, you have to stay focused on what you can control. And so what you can control is what are you doing today to help move your real estate business in the right direction?
We're still looking at deals right now. So even though the stuff is going down, lemon squeezy. That is right. But even though the things are still happening, we're still looking at deals. We're still trying to make it happen.
Yeah.
No matter what, no excuses. Like legitly no excuses.
I mean, even our girl Lexi, our closer, our acquisitionist, she lives in St. Pete. They evacuated overnight up to South Carolina. I told her to take the day. She didn't listen.
She's not. She's working. Right? She's like, no, I took a nap on the way in. I'm good. I'm going to work. And I mean, I talked to her and I'm like, don't bother. She's like, no, I got it. Yeah. So it's about really not making any excuses. And if you're going to make an excuse, it's about why I'm going to be successful rather than make an excuse. Why not?
Boom.
Key. So if you're going to make an excuse, make it a good one.
Yeah. So until next time, guys, go follow us at Creative Finance Playbook all over socials. And then also, if you haven't yet, give us a little review. If you like these podcasts, we're on Apple and Spotify. We would love some 5-star ratings from you. Let us know that you enjoy hearing what we're talking about these days. And then also that you can come ask questions live. So until next time.
Yay.
Everybody stay safe out there and go do some deals.
See you guys.
Bye.